Hello, I am Dr. Somasundaram Adimulam Chinnadurai, a PhD research scholar from Institute of Neurology at Chennai in India. I am the corresponding author for this research paper. Welcome to the audio slides presentation. Kindly pause the presentation whenever you require due to the complexity of the study, and I have tried to include as much as possible within the 5-minute limit. Let me begin with a brief refresher about the three leading hypotheses about cognitive fatigue in multiple sclerosis. According to the temporal fatigue hypothesis, as the time spent on a task increases, performance declines due to cognitive fatigue. The cognitive load hypothesis, on the other hand, suggests that the degree of cognitive fatigue for a given task is directly proportional to the cognitive load of the task. The third hypothesis, the cognitive domain hypothesis, states that cognitive fatigue may be domain specific and hence may selectively involve specific domains sparing the others. The primary objective was to inquire the prevalence and clinical or demographic profile of cognitive fatigue in MS using novel clinical and electrophysiological measures designed specifically to reveal cognitive fatigue. We also attempted to check the three previously mentioned hypotheses of cognitive fatigue. We also tried to measure the sensitivity and specificity of individual tests used here in detecting fatigue. 50 cases of MS with 50 matched controls were administered these tests. A modified version of the Stroop test was used. The subjects were given a sheet of paper with 250 items and were instructed to name the color of the font as quickly as possible. The Stroop 60 and Stroop 180 scores were the number of correct responses in 60 and 180 seconds respectively. The 3 into Stroop 60 divided by Stroop 180 ratio would then be a measure of cognitive fatigue. Next, in the modified version of the symbol digit modalities test, the subjects were given a code sheet similar to the one displayed here and another sheet with a sequence of 150 symbols. The MSDMT60 and MSDMT180 scores were the number of correct responses in 60 and 180 seconds respectively. 3 into MSDMT60 divided by MSDMT180 ratio was considered a measure of cognitive fatigue. The subjects were then asked to tell out the sum of the numbers represented by the consecutive pairs of symbols. Similar to MSDMT60 and MSDMT180 scores, SDM-CAT60 and SDM-CAT180 scores were computed, and 3 into SDM-CAT60 divided by SDM-CAT180 ratio was considered a measure of cognitive fatigue. The SDM-CAT test will have a significantly increased cognitive load compared to the simpler MSDMT version of the test. The serial addition test and 3-digit serial addition test involve the subjects to tell out the sum of consecutive 2 and 3 digits respectively, and the corresponding 60-second, 180-second and cognitive fatigue scores were calculated for each of these two tests. We then measured the evoked potential P300 amplitude and latency for 50 and 150 rare stimuli continuously. The ratio of P300 latency at 150 stimuli to that at 50 stimuli and the ratio of P300 amplitude at 50 stimuli to that at 150 stimuli would be markers of cognitive fatigue as latency increases while amplitude decreases with fatigue. With the criteria used in the study, 23 out of 50 MS patients or 46% showed significant cognitive fatigue. This is far more compared to the 8% among controls. From this table, we can clearly see that 3 out of 5 clinical measures and both the electrophysiological measures indicate a significantly increased cognitive fatigue in the MS population. This could be taken as supportive evidence for the temporal fatigue hypothesis since all these measures were designed to test it. Also, the second and third measures from the top in MS patients are comparable to the scores of the healthy control group. And this could be taken as evidence supporting the cognitive domain hypothesis as the domains required for SDMT and SAT measures of fatigue seem to have been spared. On comparing the more demanding loaded version, that is SDM-CAT scores, with the simpler version SDMT score of cognitive fatigue among MS patients, we see significantly more fatigue for the loaded version. At the same time, when these scores are compared within the control group, we see the reverse, which could be due to the effects of learning on cognitive performance, which may also be impaired in MS patients. We can see that the same is also applicable on comparing the SAT and 3D SAT versions. These could imply that the cognitive load hypothesis may also be true. Thus, we have derived evidence for all the three hypotheses of cognitive fatigue in MS, indicating that it could very well be a multifaceted entity due to diffuse white matter damage. As we can see from this chart, all the measures used had a high specificity and an arguably good sensitivity in detecting cognitive fatigue in MS patients. Please feel free to contact me regarding any queries related to this work at this email ID highlighted. Thank you for your time.